Welcome everyone to another thing on the Digiboys YouTube channel with me, Whatta. I have not been posting here for over half a year. It all started with Guns leaving Defeating the Comic Machine to become a professional writer, and I've been supporting him in that as a friend, hopefully, and I kind of just lost interest in the channel. But recently, I've been coming back a bit into watching a lot of Digibro content after having a bit of a pause throughout most of spring this year, and throughout summer I've really come back. And I just finished the first episode of the Gecko Estate, and I had to respond to a certain part of it that was about Digibro as a community leader. In this piece, Digibro discusses his failures as a community leader, in that he never really wanted to hang out around people in that kind of way before, and didn't want to spend the time required to be a community leader. And also, my opinion is that he doesn't have the necessary knowledge, skills, or experience to be a successful community leader. He has never run a real organization. He's never done recruitment. He's never done that kind of work when it comes to keeping a substantial amount of people interested and invested in a community of said people. He's run the PCP, which is 9 individuals. It's way closer to a friendship group than it is an organization. And I am a person whose entire skill set as an adult is community leadership. For those of you who don't know, I am a long time, let's say, iconic figure in the youth section of the Swedish sobriety movement. And I run several clubs and pieces of this organization in the past. Most notably, I ran the entire sobriety movement in my city, Västerås, for a long time. And I also ran, I run different councils, internet groups, discussion forums, etc. But in this club in Västerås, we started with 3 people, and we had a room in the center of the city that we could use to basically build our club. And within a few months, we were about 30 people. We ended up around 80 to 90 people, and we met 2 to 3 times every single week for 2 years and did things together. Very, very successful. It's still active to this day, even though I have not interacted with it for soon 5 years. And it really has not evolved since I left. And it's slowly dying as I'm not there anymore. But while I was there, it was constantly growing. And the reason it's still alive is because I built a community with a culture that was built around community longevity. And that's what I'm capable of. I studied to be a teacher. I use these skills in my work as a teacher. When I work with classes, I work by engaging them in the class, trying to make everyone function properly, socially with each other, in order to make the class a long-term sustainable unit, rather than just, a place where bullying festers and such. I've ran the biggest gaming community in Västerås. I was the co-leader of that, together with a guy who I later had big fallings out with. And that fallings out and me leaving did kill that organization, because I was no longer there to support it. I've worked with, general shit in my region. I had a role-playing group for a long time. There was 30 people, not role-playing as but people were LARPing, and we supported LARPing, and it was really going well, and then I lost interest, and it instantly died, because I had not set the culture yet. But as we saw with the sobriety movement, when I get the chance to set a culture, I know how to make it succeed. Now, how does this relate back to the Digibro experience I had here? Well, Digibro as a community leader he expressed one thing that he wanted, and it was openness and almost a lack of internal culture. Digibro wanted, as expressed to me, that there should not be an internal culture that makes it so that new people cannot instantly integrate and express themselves. He doesn't want it to be like, let's say 4chan, where there is a massive amount of rules that are unspoken about how to act in the community. Rather, he wanted it to just be a clean slate where anyone could come in and be themselves, and that should just be a-okay. Now, what I think this whole idea fails to realize is that in order to have a place where everyone is accepted, culture is necessary. Because without culture, the general unacceptedness of some individuals will thrive. Because people will not have any social repercussions to their outspokenness about people. There won't be an interest in keeping their social relationships within the group alive, which means that they treat the group not as something that is important to them because they don't have those social connections. What I did when I was hyperactive in the Digibro Discord was that I tried to be the community leader that Digibro wasn't. And I tried to do this initially sort of from the shadows, but it very clearly became obvious that I was a leading figure in this community. And I took that upon myself, and I did so very self-awarely. I ran it like I would run my club with the sobriety movement, the gaming den club, my own anime club, which is like PCP size with like 9-10 people around for 4 years. Like, that's also something that happened. I took the same approach to it. And my belief is that to build a community, you need to realize that what keeps people invested in the community is not the topic or the reason they came there. What keeps them invested is the people that are already there. Now, Digi, if he's listening to this, might be familiar with the community around Dick Masterson. In fact, I know he is. And I want to use it as an example here, because what Dick is like me. He's very invested in the strategies behind building a successful community. And what he does to make his community thrive the way it has is that he's highlighted the people within the community as like important people to the experience of consuming his content in the community. Now, granted, Dick is not Digi. Like, Digi's this experimental artist guy, and Dick is a pundit of sorts. Like, he's a podcast comedian. He doesn't make like a bunch of different shit. And most of the shit he does make that's not just his podcast, it's not made by him, it's made by his community. But what he does is that he constantly highlights all of these individuals within his community. Like, you have the big ones like Mad Cucks and Asterios and Harmful Opinions and like Digi and Mumkey themselves. But you also like have these small guys who just do something in the community, and Dick will highlight them, because what he realizes is that you don't stay in a community for the topic you're discussing. You stay in the community for the people you're discussing it with, because otherwise you can always go somewhere else. Look at this image. Right here, I've taken a picture of all the juggling balls my old roommate left in my apartment after he moved away. Imagine these juggling balls are all in a community. Now, some are more similar to each other, some are vastly different, but they all have in common that they're juggling balls, and they have a community that was built around the idea that they were going to discuss the different aspects of being a juggling ball. But if this tiny juggling ball doesn't initially like the fact that the big red juggling ball is big and red, then he's going to get bored of the idea that he has to discuss the nature of being a juggling ball with this big red guy. And the fact that their experiences of being a juggling ball are so different from each other because of their different ideas of what it is like to be a juggling ball, because they're two very different kinds of juggling balls, is going to limit their ability to relate to each other on this topic. Instead, what you need to do as a community leader is you need to get the small juggling ball invested in the fact, not that the big red juggling ball is a juggling ball, but in the fact that he is a big red juggling ball. that he is different from you. When the tiny juggling ball comes to the community, not because he enjoys discussing being a juggling ball, but because he enjoys discussing being a juggling ball with a vast variety of different juggling balls who he knows and has social connections to that he values, and that he values the big red juggling ball, not for being a juggling ball, but for specifically being the big red juggling ball that he is, and in liking him for that. That is how this community reaches longevity and enjoyment for all people involved. Digi fails to often act on this. I don't know if he fails to realize it. Probably he does realize it. But he doesn't take interest in it. Because Digibro, as he explained in the section where we talked about this, is that he wants his community to just be a place where people come and discuss anime. And he doesn't want there to be any focus on the people discussing anime. But at the same time, he doesn't want 4chan, which rejects individuality. Well, I'm here to say that the reason Digibro's Discord server is a failure is because it gets stuck in between these two ideas. It gets stuck in between the place where individuality is not a thing and a place where individuality is a thing. Because it's a place where everyone recognizes Digibro as an important person with a distinct taste. But they are constantly encouraged to not recognize each other. To not recognize each other as distinct people that you should get to know and get to know their tastes and their opinions as individuals. Now, this may not have been Digibro's intention, I'm fully aware of that. Maybe he didn't mean that that was his actual goal. But I think that is the result that he produced. Especially after I created Ohayo Nation. Now, this is the first time I mention Ohayo Nation inside of this little talk piece. But what happened was that when Digibro said these words, that he did not want a clique to form, and that he wished the cliques would move to other places, which was his idea. I had never even thought of that before he said it. I had been completely invested in trying to build a community inside of Digi's server, not outside of it. But when Digi himself wished for something else, I did, and I acted upon that calling. Because all I wanted was friends. Friends I could connect to in the part of me that was the part of me that had an identity based around the fact that I was a Digibro fan. Now, I talked earlier in a different What About episode about the identity of being a Digibro fan, and about the Digi Does Life episode where he talks about how all of his fans just want to be friends with him, but the reason they want to be friends with him is because they find a community with him, a cause of identity with him. And what they should realize is that all these people can't be friends with Digibro, they should just be friends with each other. Because they all relate to him for the same reasons. And as soon as I heard that, I knew that was my goal. I wanted that. I wanted all these people who also like Digibro to be my friends. And to be important to me. As individuals. I wanted to get to know them. And when I realized that Digi, at least from my interpretation, did not want that to happen in his own server, but wanted those cliques to move out, we moved out. And Ohayo Nation was created. Ohayo Nation is now more than half a year old. We started in November last year, and we're about to hit a 1-year anniversary this November. Now, Ohayo Nation as a server is everything I ever wanted from an online community. It's about 25 to 30 people with small rotations, but the core cast of about 20 to 24 people has been the same since the creation. These people know each other on a personal level. There is no sense of any anonymity in this server. There's maybe 3 or 4 people in it that we don't know things about. But everyone does know each other's, for example, first names, even though we don't use them. Everyone knows where we live, what our life situations are, what our families are like, what our personalities are like. And we care about each other in like a real way. As you do with, say, your school friends, or the people that you have part of your IRL clique of people. Ohayo Nation is a group of individuals that matter to each other. To the point that when we have drama, the idea of banning anyone is never even a question, because what we try to do instead is resolve things. Because we care so much about each other that actually solving the divisions within our group is worth more to us than the peace of mind of just ignoring the drama. We tackle all of our difficulties with each other head on, and we've come out on it stronger on the other side. We've had the honeymoon phase, we moved through the conflict phase, and we've come out into a sustainable phase, just like a real group of people does. And now that means that now when we have new members, we no longer go through the conflict phase again. And we do have new members, they just don't come from the Digibro community anymore. Ohayo Nation now picks up members from other places that we feel share an identity with us. Because Ohayo Nation's identity is no longer strictly connected to the Digibro ethos, even if that is our origin and we do pay a lot of homage to it. I'd say that about half the people who came from the Digibro Discord server are no longer a part of it and no longer even consume Digibro's content. The other half of us are still diehard fans. But that fandom is no longer connected to our identity as Ohayo Nation people. So what I want to say with this, do I think that Digi failed? Yes. Do I think it's his fault? Not really. I've often joked about the fact that I killed Digi server, but actually I think it's true. I killed it. And I'm to blame if someone misses it. I know people like FtCM who were left out of Ohayo Nation and who now cannot come in because the group has moved so far beyond what he knew the people as that it would be impossible. But who was very much friends with a lot of people who came into Ohayo Nation and was left dry in the Digibro server. And God knows I feel guilty about that. I feel bad about it. And there's more people like FtCM, right? Who I feel the same way towards. And in some ways I just want to say sorry that I didn't include you. But in other ways, I'm also kind of happy I didn't. Because people like FtCM or Washer, people like, I don't even know. There's a lot of good people in the server still, right? A lot of these people are the only reason the server is still alive today. What I did when I was, let's just say, the community leader of the Digibro fans in general, was that I tried to get everyone invested in each other. I did this by making us constantly have incentives to hang out and voice chat with each other, to actually see each other as people and not just text on a screen. Another thing that Digibro complained about, as he found voice chat hard to moderate. Another reason I made a side server, because I wanted voice chat to be used without ever being frowned upon by the server owner. I ran these movie nights, which were a staple of the community for months. And FtCM continued that tradition, which made me endlessly happy. And I want to thank him for the work that he's done for the server. Because now when I'm back inside of it, properly, I feel this sense of lost potential. And the make Digibro's Discord server great again ideas are popping into my head. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to put in the time anymore. Because I already have what I needed. I'm already satisfied. I made Ohayo Nation and it's been great. The people in Ohayo Nation have transcended online status and become some of the most important people in my life. And honestly, that server takes a lot of my time. And it's time I'm not willing to deprioritize from that server in order to invest back into the Digibro server. Before I made Ohayo Nation, I often pondered upon writing Digibro and asking him to basically just get his blessings in the effort of being a sort of community manager for what he wanted to create. And I know that later he gave that privilege to May, who was in Ohayo Nation for a while. Honestly, I suspect as a scout or a spy in many ways, because Digi was my fan theory here is Digibro was nervous about us shit-talking him in a side server, so he sort of got May to go into the server, because it would be super weird if he got into the server and had her report if we ever trash-talked him or I don't know what, or ever if there was interesting discussion about him. And now that's probably preposterous, but I can't help but think it, because she never really interacted with us inside of it, but was still strangely keen on joining it initially. And later she left, probably because the server was not talking about Digibro even close to often anymore. And May is also his comment section manager, which is something I pondered on offering, a position I pondered on offering to do for a long time. I never actually offered. These thoughts have been in my head for about half a year, and seeing Digibro basically proclaim his failure as a community leader in Gecko Estate really solidified what I was trying to do for the past year in my mind, and it made me mourn the death of the Digibro fan community as it was. But let's be hopeful. This may or may not be the last video ever on Digibros. Not Digibro, Digiboys. I don't even know our own channel name. But the next generation is alive. Endless Ennui is doing lots of great things with the Digibro community 3x3. And I just want to express the idea that if you also feel that the Digibro Discord is not as it should be, what you should do is try to listen to the people who are in it and listen to who they truly are. And get invested in the people. Get interested in the red juggling ball because he's red and big, not because he's a juggling ball. I think that's what I want to say. Whatta out.